where we are. That's denoting where the cemetery is. You see, the black lines are the German attacks. In December of '44, you see our different counterattacks starting in January of '45. And what we're fighting through, the gray band there is called the Siegfried Line. And what that is that is a series of defensive structures and obstacles. And it's quite different than the Maginot Line. The Maginot Line was this extraordinary collection of forts buried in the ground, you know, disappearing guns, and whereas the Siegfried Line, they started building a version of it in 1939, but the reality was at that time, by 1940, the Germans own all of Europe, so they don't feel like they need to have a defensive line on their border. However, in 1944, they start to construction in earnest once they start getting pushed back, particularly after the Normandy landing. So the Siegfried Line is a belt of small bunkers, relatively small bunkers, interconnecting artillery positions, but mostly just a lot of obstacles, concrete obstacles. Ever heard of dragon's teeth? So it's dragon's teeth are big concrete obstacles that stick up, and you know you can walk between them, but you sure heck can't get a vehicle between them. They're just high enough to be very difficult. They're hard to just blow up because they're all solid concrete. They're sunk in the ground, and we would have to get very creative. But once we break through the Siegfried Line, then you see this rush across Western Germany to the Rhine River. Now, we go over to this one. Now the blue line, or the green, the Moselle, Danube, and then you see the Rhine running up from Mannheim, Koblenz, Remagen, Bonn, Cologne. So that becomes like the last major, that's the last definitive natural barrier into Germany. So look up, do you see where Bastogne is? Mm-hmm. So 18th, 19th of December, Easy Company is pulled out of Rechamps. They're loaded on trucks. They're hoping they're going to go back to Mormelon and refit, but instead, on the 31st of December, so about 2 weeks after the Germans launch their main attack up in Bastogne, another attack was launched down in Alsace, called Operation Nordwind, Northwind. That was another code name to, you know, so it didn't say Northwind, and when actually it's in the south. And you see the little black German north of Strasbourg and by Colmar. It was a much smaller offensive, but by the time the Germans attacked, we had shifted, when Patton shifted 3 of his divisions to head north and relieve Bastogne, all the other units along here had to spread themselves out. So that made German penetrations a little greater. And because of the tenuous situation in the middle of January, again, Ike didn't have much in the way of reserves, but he still had his 2 airborne units who had just been relieved out of Bastogne. So the guys in the Easy Company are going to get back on trucks, and they're going to get trucked down. See the vicinity of Nancy, this area, Nancy, Strasbourg, Metz, that's called, it's a region of now France called Alsace. It had gone back and forth between the Germans and the French, and So it's like now they're French, but a lot of them will just say they're Alsatian because it's easier. They speak French and German, but now they've had almost a century of being just one nation. But that's the area the Easy Company is going to be brought down to, and they're actually going to be brought in and sort of sitting up in towns and on rivers and standby. So they're going to be conducting patrols wherever they stop. They're going to have patrolling out, and then they're going to be in Hagenau for a few weeks, where they're actually going to have a little bit of time to dig in, but they're going to continue their patrolling, and we'll see that with the last patrol. Then, see if I can, you got it up there. Today, you see here at the point of this one of the Siegfried line, you see Karlsruhe. Yeah. That's where we're going to stop tonight. Okay. We're going to drive down past Munich to a little place just in Austria, Zellamsee, near Salzburg, the next day, and that's where we'll be, and running around Berchtesgaden. Okay, so if you would like to follow me, please, down to the cemetery itself. That first marker in the